When I followed my husband that night, I thought I'd find another woman. I never imagined I'd find my own blood. That line still echoes in my mind like a whisper I can't silence. My name is Lina, and for 12 years, I thought I understood what love meant. I thought it was about loyalty, laughter over burnt dinners, holding hands through quiet nights, and forgiveness after small fights. I never imagined that love could have a twin face, one smiling in daylight and the other hiding in the dark. I met Marcus when I was 26. He wasn't the kind of man who lit up a room. He was the quiet one in the corner, sipping coffee slowly, listening more than talking. I liked that about him. After a string of loud heartbreaks, his calmness felt like shelter. He worked as a contractor, always smelling faintly of sawdust and soap. I worked in a local library surrounded by stories that never betrayed me. We married 2 years later in a small ceremony under the old oak tree behind my mother's house. My father didn't attend. He'd left when I was 10, walked out with a suitcase and a silent mother standing in the doorway. I'd spent my adult life pretending he never existed. For the first few years, Marcus and I were happy. We didn't have much, but we had routines. He made breakfast on Sundays. I made coffee just the way he liked. Strong enough to wake the dead, he used to joke. We would sit by the window watching the neighborhood wake up. Sometimes he'd trace circles on my wrist absent-mindedly and I'd think, this is it. This is peace. But peace has a sound. And when it fades, you notice the silence. It started small. Missed calls. Late nights at work. A faint smell of perfume I didn't own. I'd ask where he'd been, and he'd smile, that gentle kind of smile that makes you feel foolish for even asking. "Babe, we've got a big project downtown," he'd say. "You know how clients get." And I'd nod, half believing, half swallowing the unease building in my chest. Still, love teaches you to wait, to hope. And I did. Until one evening in November when I called his phone and a woman answered. Her voice was soft, uncertain. Hello?" I froze. "Who is this?" Silence. Then a click. When Marcus came home later that night, I asked. He looked at me like I'd asked if the sky was green. "Wrong number, Lina." You overthink everything. I wanted to believe him. But something had already shifted. A small fracture had opened, and I could feel the air coming through. Days turned into weeks. He became more distracted, more careful. His clothes smelled faintly of something floral, and once I found a lipstick mark on his coffee tumbler, not mine. When I held it in my hand, I remember thinking, what shade of red lies can be? I told my friend Leah about it over lunch one afternoon. She squeezed my hand and said, "Men hide a lot, Lina, but secrets have legs. They walk home eventually." Those words stayed with me, and a month later they proved true. It was a Thursday. Marcus said he'd be working late again, but his eyes flickered when he said it, just slightly, the way a candle flickers before it goes out. So I waited until dark, took my keys, and followed him. He didn't drive toward the downtown office. He drove to a quiet neighborhood 2 towns away. Small houses, trimmed lawns, porch lights glowing. I parked 2 streets behind, my heart pounding so loud it felt like it might break the silence around me. Marcus pulled into a driveway, a blue house with white shutters. The porch light flicked on. And then she came out. A woman. Mid-30s, long brown hair, holding a small child on her hip. She smiled when she saw him, the kind of smile that only comes from love that feels safe. He leaned down, kissed her on the cheek, and the child reached out for him, giggling. I felt the world tilt. My hands shook so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. I stayed there for 20 minutes, long enough to see him carry groceries inside, long enough to know this wasn't some affair. This was a life. When I finally drove home, I didn't cry. I just sat in the car outside my house, staring at the dashboard lights. Inside, everything looked the same. The photos on the mantel, our wedding picture, the blanket I'd folded that morning, but something invisible had shattered. I didn't confront him that night. I couldn't. Instead, I lay beside him, listening to his even breathing, thinking about how many lies it takes to build another home. Over the next few days, I gathered courage like stones. I needed to know who she was and the woman in the blue house, so I went back, twice, once to see the mailbox. The name read, Mrs. M. Caldwell. My name, my husband's name. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just betrayal. It was identity theft of the heart. The next morning, everything felt unreal. I sat staring at the DNA report, my hands trembling. The paper that should have destroyed me instead revealed a blood connection I never knew existed. I confronted my father first. He went silent. No denial, no anger, just tears. He admitted that years ago, before marrying my mother, he had made a mistake. That mistake was now my husband's secret wife. When I met her again, she didn't know either. She thought my father had abandoned her mother. She looked at me with the same pain I had, betrayed by the same man, in different ways. We both cried, not as rivals, but as sisters who had been living two sides of the same lie. That night, I faced my husband. He fell to his knees, begging for forgiveness, claiming he loved me but couldn't escape the web of deceit he'd created. For the first time, I didn't scream. I just said, "You broke two families, not one." I left him that night. Now my sister and I are rebuilding what our father destroyed. We meet every weekend, sharing the pain, the laughter, and the truth that binds us. We lost our families, but found each other. Weeks passed, but the storm inside me refused to calm. Every night I replayed the moment I saw them together, my husband and my sister, both victims of a truth neither of us created. One day, she called me in tears. "He's still trying to contact me," she said. That's when I realized this wasn't about betrayal anymore. It was about breaking the cycle of lies that had trapped us both. We decided to confront our father together. When he saw us standing side by side, he broke down completely. Years of guilt poured out. The affairs, the silence, the cowardice. He begged us to keep his secret, fearing it would destroy what was left of our family. But I told him softly, "Your secret already did." In the weeks that followed, my sister and I decided not to go public, but we didn't stay quiet either. We began volunteering for women who'd suffered betrayal and emotional manipulation, turning our pain into purpose. My husband tried to come back, but I was done saving people who refused to save themselves. In the end, my sister and I built something honest, not a perfect life, but a true one. Sometimes blood doesn't make you family, truth does, and the truth, once faced, sets you free.